It's hard to believe that I've been around for nearly 6 decades. And for over 4 of them, I have been working, I've been leading, and I've been growing. I've learned a thing or two along the way. You want to know one of the biggest lessons I've discovered? After years of climbing the corporate ladder, leading my family, managing teams, and striving for success, I needed a hard reset. So for nearly 40 days, 38 to be exact, I unplugged. I stepped back, I reconnected with my purpose, and I reimagined what life and leadership could actually look like for the remainder of my time as a leader. The time of unplugging sparked this very important conversation, one that I want to have with you. I'm Kelley Cornish, and this is Life and Leadership Unplugged. Let's dive in. In this episode, Courtney Johnson shares her journey of leaving a longtime role to build a purpose-driven company, offering insights on navigating career change, maintaining balance, and following one's true passion. Courtney is a people-centric leader. She's a strategic HR business consultant, and she is the founder of the new Turning Tides Strategies, LLC. Not to mention, she is an advocate for growth and engagement and really uses her business acumen to drive impactful strategies that unite teams and streamline processes. Let's welcome to the podcast, Courtney Johnson. Hello, I am Kelley Cornish, and I am back with another episode of Life and Leadership Unplugged with Kelley Cornish. I am always so inspired and get so excited about the wonderful people I get to talk to about this topic of just leadership, and then how do you unplug to continue to have the stamina that you need to do the great work that you've been called to do. And joining me today is yet another great leader, Courtney Johnson. I am so excited to have Courtney with us. We'll talk a lot about her background, and you would have heard about her background in the intro. But welcome, Courtney. We're excited to have you join us today.
Thank you, Kelley. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Yeah. So, Courtney is a new friend of mine, but we were brought together by a very dear friend, a dear mutual friend. And so it feels like when you're brought together by the right people, it feels like you've been knowing each other forever. So I feel that way with the work that you've been doing with us at the foundation and just helping us to get our minds wrapped around what our goals are, what this performance excellence look like. And so we appreciate your work with that. And we'll hear more about what you do. But I want to start off talking about where you come from. And you had such an exciting role prior to doing some consulting work now. And so I'd love for you to talk to us about what inspired you to leave your last role. First, talk about the role. Then what inspired you to leave it, to go out on this new adventure in life? And just want to hear all about that.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, again, thank you so much for having me today. It has been such a pleasure to get to know you. I agree that it feels that we have known each other for much longer. And just my kudos to the amazing team that you've pulled around you. It's been, again, a true pleasure to get to know all of it, the people behind the foundation. So congratulations. As you said, my journey is one that is not exactly a straight line, but I was really fortunate that up until just recently, really just August of 2024, I spent 17 years working in the nonprofit space as a leader at the Philadelphia Zoo. And so over the course of that 17 years, I had many functions and responsibilities that I was so passionate about and had an opportunity to contribute to, most of it stemming from human resources. So that was my original entry point to the Philadelphia Zoo, and then a longstanding relationship that I had in the space of HR. But really in the years since 2018, 2019, certainly after 2020, my role took a completely different turn. And I am so grateful that I had the opportunity to be there for as long as 17 years to experience the things that I did. But as I got to the tail end of the time working for the organization, I was fulfilling the role of Chief Administrative Officer. So with a responsibility for human resources, labor relations, workplace safety, risk management, other duties as assigned, including interim assignments. And it was incredible. I loved being a nonprofit leader. I loved being connected to the gem of Philadelphia Zoo, an incredible mission, an amazing team. and I made the decision to leave. And so I'm sure that's why you have me here today, is to ask why and what were you thinking? And the short answer is that it was a conversation I had really begun to have with myself back before even COVID. 2018, 2019, I was trying to think about what was next in my life and my career. And at that time, I was looking at it very narrowly through the view as a human resources professional. And I am so grateful that we'll call it divine intervention, perhaps not always the best kind, that a pandemic and other things happened that extended my time working for the organization as long as it did, because it was that last chapter where I had an opportunity to see the world and the organization and the environment around me from such a dramatically different point of view that I realized that I was being called to do something outside the organization, but it was much broader than human resources alone. And so after lots of soul searching, and I will thank every person who's listening to this who had the wonderful role of listening to me think about what I wanted to do and, really belaboring that in conversation, I made the decision because some people had raised their hand and said that they were interested in working with me as a partner on a consulting basis, that it was time to make that leap and to take the dive.
Well, first, congratulations on the courage. And,
Thank you.
people hear about this all the time, but there's really so many things that come into play after you've had such a great career and a great run to make someone just do the soul searching and say, okay, now I want to go, I want to either make a sharp left turn or a sharp right turn. And just, everyday life, people are like, well, why would you do that? You work for an amazing organization, you do some amazing things. And so in that transition, I'm sure there was a reset that had to happen for you. Would love to hear a little bit maybe about how that happened for you. How did that play out? Because again, it is not just something you wake up to your point that one morning and go, I think I'm going to do this. So would love to know what nudged you a little bit. What were some of those nuggets around the reset?
Sure. So I believe that, a couple of things. Anybody who's really considering a career change, a complete wholesale change of what they look at in their life that's fulfilling them, that is not something that you come to, like they do in the movies, some epiphany or a dream that you have that suddenly makes you feel this is your path. It's a lot of hard work. It's methodical. It requires a lot of soul searching and a lot of homework. You should write a lot. That is a recommendation. Write down what you're thinking. Think about whether it's the pros and cons, the 30 things that you think you're really good at questions. Those actual exercises really matter. And they're not designed to help you come up with an answer. And I think that's why people go into those exercises and sometimes feel that they're not worth their time. They're not designed to give you an answer. They're actually designed to help you ask more questions. So for me, I spent a ton of time working on those types of exercises, spending time with lots of trusted colleagues and friends, having conversations and allowing them to help me continue to think about different ways of looking at this situation that I hadn't thought about previously. And then as sort of luck would have it, and those conversations transpiring, that moment where 2 or 3 people came forward at the same time and said, I know you keep saying that you don't really think you want to do consulting work, but I've got this thing that I need your help with. That's the nudge. That's the final nudge, right? Had those 3 people come forward and said that to me back in 2018 or 2019, or even all the way up until 2023, I think I would have said no. I would have missed the opportunity. I wouldn't have been ready for it. So I think you have to do a lot of work yourself to be ready for when the nudge happens, that you are prepared to take the actual step, if that makes sense.
It makes so much sense. And it's just, it's a process. Everything is a process, which has led you to this new world of yours. You are now managing a company of your own. Would love to know what a typical day looks like for you now. Now, since you're on the other side of what, when you said you're a chief administrative officer, I've been one too, and you're literally the jack of all trade. Like you have to, you're the ideal, the epitome of a utility player, as they would say. Yes. Like that's what you do. You can bounce here, bounce there. You could play any position on the field. So, but now, what does the typical day look like for you?
So, I would say every day is a little bit different, which of course is consistent with working in nonprofit leadership, especially in those jack of all trades roles. However, I think that it's important to comment on the fact that there were things that I wanted to make sure that I maintained as consistent anchors in my schedule and my structure, because absent structure and continuity of something, I think all of us go a little insane. I feel like I would personally. So I'm an early riser. I've been an early person for as long as I can remember, certainly since having kids. They make that a requirement in life. However, I love to get up actually before anyone else is up in my house. That's a really core part of my time to center myself, look at what I need to do for the day, really get the juices flowing, and be in the right mindset for what I need to tackle. And that was something that I used to do when I was working at the Philadelphia Zoo. I might get up a little bit later than I did when I worked, but I still get up really early. And I do it before anybody else in the house is awake. And that's been particularly helpful. A lot of the days have client meetings and discussions that have a lot of similarities to some of the things that I was working on at Philadelphia Zoo, similar types of problems, just a different application of it. And then there are days where there's very few meetings on the schedule, and that's very different for me. And I actually try to be very deliberate about finding those days, blocking them out entirely, and then finding those to be great times to go and work elsewhere outside my home. When you're working for yourself, when you're homebound, so to speak, it is important that you find ways to create that separation of space for yourself. And so those are great days to go somewhere, sit in a corner, plug in your earbuds, power through work that is project oriented for clients, and to really just have that time to yourself. And so that's very different for me than what it used to look like.
Well, you jumped right into the next question around how do you find balance and what are some practices that you do, especially now it is very different, I'm sure, in showing up in a place every day and then having the flexibility in your own space to make work work. So how do you find balance? You have little ones, you have your husband, you have your family. Like, how do you find, and I don't even call it balance anymore. How do you integrate? How do you integrate your lifestyle with your work style? I think that's a better way to ask the question.
I love the word integrate. I usually refer to it as work-life fit, but now I'm going to call it work-life integration. And yes, it does require work and effort. It doesn't happen accidentally. I always say that to people as well. For me, it is partially that I maintain an exercise regimen. That is something that is so important to me. Mind, body, spirit. I'll come back to that at some point. It is such a critical component of self-preservation and being really good, not just for yourself, but for those that are around you. And it's really easy when you're in an environment like this one where you're working for yourself and you know that there's a hustle and grind that has to go along with, continuing to get the work done and look at your pipeline of clients, that shutting off and finding time to make sure that you're not just letting it bleed into all corners of the day and night and weekend and all of those places. You have to be very, very deliberate about it. I would ask you not to ask my children that question this week, but I promise you, I've been working really hard on doing better with it because it's really important to me. And it is a value of not being in the same place every day with a set schedule and having a commute. For me, that's such a change of pace. And so going and picking up my kids from school more frequently and earlier than normal and finding those extra moments with them has been, really restorative and really helpful in this process. But you have to, it's a daily exercise, I believe personally, to figure out exactly how to strike that right fit. Some days are very heavy one direction and some you need to make sure you carve back and give back to your family.
And that's so true. I think about me today. Yesterday was sort of light. My Mondays, I try to have my Mondays and light and Fridays if I'm not traveling to be lighter days, just to breathe and to look around.
Yes.
And so yesterday was really light, but today was back to back, and so I made myself get up this morning, go out in the chilly weather, go for that brisk walk, sit in the sun, grab a cup of coffee, just sit there and just get my mind together. And that was my reset at the beginning of the day. Similar to you. I mean, my kids are older now, but I remember I would get up so early and people were like, why are you up so early? I said, this is the only part of the day that truly belongs to me. Once their feet hit the floor, my day belongs to everyone else. And so I have sometimes no control over it. But if you have that controlled space and time where you can just really reset and be free and hear yourself think, I think it's those little things. Of course, we love vacations. We love to do things like that. but it's in the day to day that I think that's where your stamina happens. That's where your routines happen. That's where the longevity happens, right? And so I commend you on that and finding in this season of your life. I love it. I love it. I love it. And so, we've heard about your past, what you've done over the years, and how you've contributed to an amazing career, and then now you're in this new space. So my question is, so what's next for you? What's next for you in Turning Tide Strategies? Love the name, but first of all, how did you come up with the name? Before we get to that, how did you come up
Sure.
with the name?
So I grew up in Massachusetts. I grew up on the South Shore of Massachusetts, small town called Situate. And so being close to the water, on the water, was an extremely important part of my upbringing. And then what I find still is part of what brings me, sort of home and centered. And so as I was thinking about different ways to approach a name for, what I was working on, which has a lot to do with change management and helping organizations really reach their full potential by understanding the importance of change management and having the right strategies in place. I was trying to find something that was really personal to me, that both was part of my past as well as what I believe is part of my present and my future. And Turning Tide is a tide that's really shifting from high to low or from low to high. And it's so critical that you are paying attention to timing. It's critical that you're paying attention to the shifting current, because there are things that you need to do proactively in order to manage that situation well. And so that was really it. It's a symbolism and sort of a reference to what I believe companies are navigating on a regular basis.
Yes, I know years ago there was that whole term around whitewater. Like, it was just so much going on. But I love this, and I love the reference of water because I love water. And as you can see behind me, like, it's a whole thing about me and water. So I love it. And I love even that was very methodical and thoughtful about what you wanted to happen or you see happen in the lives of your clients. So I commend you on that. And, I did ask the question like, well, what's next? Um, so I'd love to hear, even though you're just getting started with this thing, what's next?
So, when I did this, part of the personal journey for me was not only looking to have an experience outside of a place where I had been working for as long as I was at Philadelphia Zoo, as much as I loved it. I knew that there was an opportunity to go out and really learn about how so many other organizations and companies are trying to solve the world's problems, right? And so a big part of it for me personally, in addition to whatever I was trying to gain professionally from the experience, was really just opening my aperture, right? Getting an opportunity to meet lots of really different people, talented people like the ones that I've met at TD Jakes Foundation, and to really expand my view of how I learn from each client how to support the next. And so for me in this moment of just assessing where I have come from, even in this short period of time, I'm so happy and so proud to say that I can see that what I was hoping for is happening in the moment. The bigger call, right, is to make sure that the work that I'm doing is actually helping propel these organizations and these companies forward, and to do it with compassion, and to do it in a way that is not just giving answers or helping create pathway forward, but to do it with still the core component of people at the center. I feel incredibly, incredibly fortunate for those that have supported me, mentored me, taught me, coached me, brought me through the worst and the best of issues, right? And I feel so compelled to make sure that I pay that forward in the work that I do. It's something that, typically a consultant might not be as focused on professional development of the people that they're working with or helping leaders continue to grow. But that for me has been a wonderful silver lining to all of this, is that there has still been opportunities to work with people and help develop leaders and to help others grow in the way that I was given those opportunities.
Well, I am so excited, and the sky is the limit. And so, as we move into this wonderful segment of our podcast of Life and Leadership Unplugged, is there's a piece that we'd like to end with, and it's my hope for you, and then you tell me your hope for me. So I'll start. And so, Courtney, my hope for you is that whatever you've imagined, it will come back to you 20-fold. I feel like you have put in so much work so far, and you're just getting started. I loved what you said about, how you really took the time to soul search and to journal And sometimes it's not for, I loved it when you said it's not to get an answer, it's to ask more questions, it's to have more questions. And so I will invite you and encourage you to continue to ask the great questions, and just what you bring to people and the body of work that you're presented through your clients. I hope that you continue to soar in that space and that you just meet some of the most extraordinary people over the next few years as you do this work. And I know it's going to be amazing. So that is my hope for you. And like I said, the sky's the limit. I'm just so excited. And congratulations.
Thank you so much, Kelley. That means so much. And in return, my hope for you is that, as you are fulfilling the space and truly fulfilling the space of leading this amazing foundation and setting this course, which again, I feel very fortunate. I've had an inside peek at looking at the people and the process and the way that this is all going to come to life and seeing the level of impact that's there, that you are able to, I'm going to say blossom. That's the best word. You are already in bloom, but there's still a whole other part of you that I see somewhere that is still growing and evolving and opening up and cascading sort of your influence and your impact into this space that you're in. And so for me, I look at you and I hope that you do it without filter, that you do it without anything holding you back, and that you just go full tilt to whatever makes you feel fulfilled and know that it is going to have tremendous impact on the work that you do. So that is my hope for you, is to just go, go, go and do it in the way that feels the best to you personally.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. I receive it all. And I love the word blossom because I do feel like I'm in that season of just that next phase. And so it feels really good. And just having these conversations about how people live their life, lead, and then also take the time to just reset, unplug, think, to help make good decisions and to continue to have some runway to do some really good work. So, Courtney Johnson, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for joining us. And we just look forward to you and Turning Tide Strategies just doing some great things. I won't even call it out on what cover of the magazine, which magazine I want to see you on, but we'll talk about that next time when the magazine comes out. So,
Thank you so
congratulations.
much. It was such a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.